Hi, y'all. I'm Julie. I'm a trauma-informed adoptee coach and somatic healing guide. After overcoming deep abandonment wounds, I now help adult adoptees move from feeling lost and disconnected to experiencing profound self-belonging. I know what it is like to carry the weight of abandonment, to feel stuck in patterns of longing, adapting, and searching for belonging. To have tried every healing modality available and come up empty. My own healing has taught me this. The answers aren't out there, they're buried within me, and I'm here to guide you home to yourself. The Resilience Project podcast brings voice, visibility, and validation to the parts of adoption society rarely names, but all of us feel. Through a trauma-informed somatic lens, I explore the lived experiences of the entire adoption constellation with a tender emphasis on the adoptee experience. This podcast goes beyond storytelling into soul-telling. It offers embodied insight, compassionate education, and a path towards awareness, hope, and strength. Each episode invites listeners to understand adoption more deeply, not just with the mind, but with the nervous system, and to reconnect with the truth, identity, and belonging that were always yours to come home to. Welcome. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. It is so good to be with you today, this Thursday. I am so ready to talk to you about one of the core issues that we as adoptees, and honestly, the entire constellation, wrestle with. We've talked about 4 of the 7 core issues that professionals have researched that adoptees wrestle with in a unique way: identity, loss, shame and guilt, grief, and today we're actually going to tackle rejection. If you remember, last week I released kind of a time capsule episode that my best friend Becky and I recorded a little bit over a year ago. And in that episode, we talked about identity and intuition, or who am I and what's next. And one of the things that I mentioned, even in a clip that I shared, was the fact that most adoptees enter into the world with a severed sense of love and belonging. The fact is that all humans have a fundamental need to belong, secondary only to nourishment and safety needs. It is a primal need. All of these core issues that we as adoptees wrestle with lay the foundation for what I call our limiting beliefs. I talked about these in our shame and guilt episode, and I'll be happy to put that in the show notes so y'all can listen if you haven't. But I would highly recommend going back and listening to all of the episodes. They're all foundational and really educational and important. But all of these limiting beliefs were informed by these core issues of loss, identity, shame, guilt, grief, and now we're going to be talking about rejection, and we will be talking about other ones in the future. But it's important to understand this. This awareness helps us to be able to move through all of these core issues with recognition, with validation, with compassion. And we're going to talk more about that in the future, but I want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty about rejection for us. So the Webster definition of rejection includes to discard or throw out as worthless, useless, or substandard, to rebuff or fling back. When framed around an adoptee's preverbal subconscious, which I've talked about already many times, these words are powerful. To discard, throw out as worthless, useless, or substandard, to rebuff or fling back. I'm pausing for a reason. Think about that. Not only are these words powerful, but they can be triggering, honestly, for us. It's reminiscent of those I am statements that I shared in our shame and guilt episode. So please go back and look at those. it's important to realize what is subconsciously impacting our present. Things like, I am worthless, I am defective, I shouldn't exist, things that I've brought up many times. Where rejection is concerned, it's that whole idea of, I'm going to reject them first so I am not rejected myself. There is this very common thing that we share as adoptees, and it's that rejection happened before we had language. We lost our culture, we lost our birth family, we lost anything that we actually knew, and then right after that loss, we were rejected. There was a rupture that happened, and we were rejected. Our bodies hold the emotional imprints of rejection, and that shapes how we anticipate and guard against it. This hypervigilance, which is meant to actually protect us, often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, causing us to misread situations, push others away, or assume rejection before it even happens, which is what I just said earlier. What once was self-protection can actually keep us trapped in the very cycle that we long to actually break. With all of this, we can then self-sabotage because the fear of rejection is literally stored in our body as a sensory experience. So the minute we sniff anything that reinforces our negative beliefs, we might reject others before they reject us, which I've repeated a couple of times. So the way to combat this is by actually identifying and reframing our limiting beliefs, period. And this takes a bit of work. And so I'm going to step you through an exercise that I work through with my adoptees in my Revolution program. But before I do that, I want to actually highlight something that I think is really important for us adoptees. It's called rejection sensitivity. A lot of times you will hear this referenced when talking about ADHD. One of the things that I have realized, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, one of the things that I have noticed with the clients that I work with is a lot of them have been either diagnosed as ADHD or have been told they are, or have not only been told they are, these people who have been ignored their entire life, that have potentially struggled with ADHD as adoptees, but have been put off and told that it's not that big of a deal. And then with that, feel a very deep sense of rejection because their experience is not being acknowledged. So all of that to say, it begins with this very deep emotional dysregulation. And one of the exercise that I have shared in a past episode, my processing emotions exercise, really helps with this. And this goes hand in hand with what I'm going to be sharing tonight. It's extremely important to learn how to emotionally regulate in order to with the rejection that we face. The symptoms that show up for this are, I'm going to read them from the Cleveland Clinic website. So people with RSD or rejection sensitivity dysphoria show the following traits and behaviors. It's very easy for them to feel embarrassed or self-conscious. They show signs of low self-esteem and trouble believing in themselves. They have trouble containing emotions, something I just talked about, when they feel rejected. This is often noticeable in children and teenagers with this condition. Some may react with sudden shows of anger or rage, while others may burst into tears. Instead of losing control of their emotions outwardly, some people with RSD or rejection sensitivity may turn their feelings inward. This was me. This can look like a snap onset of severe depression, and sometimes it's mistaken for sudden emotional shifts, things like bipolar disorder or borderline personality. I have also learned that many adoptees that I have worked with have been misdiagnosed with these because nobody delves into the fact of adoption trauma. Very rarely do people do that in therapy because there's just not a lot of training in the professional sphere for that. They're often, another symptom, people pleasers, or the chameleon, as we talk about, and become intensely focused on avoiding the disapproval of others. Sound familiar? They may avoid starting projects, tasks, or goals where there's a chance, just a chance of failure. They compensate for fear of failure or rejection by going all out or striving for perfectionism. Hello, that's me as an Enneagram 1, definitely a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. However, the downside of this is that they often experience intense anxiety and may not easily make self-care or downtime a priority. Okay, y'all, if any of these symptoms feel like you're suffering from rejection sensitivity. I wouldn't be surprised if any adoptee you talk to would have all of those symptoms or most of them. This is not something to be taken lightly. And in order to be able to increase what is called our window of tolerance or our capacity to hold what it is that we are experiencing and be able to move through it in a way that is healthy, we've got to learn how to first process our emotions. So I will drop that exercise again here in the show notes. But we also have to learn what it is that is actually feeding that dysregulation. And that is our limiting beliefs, which I have mentioned before a couple of times. What I'd like to do today is share my screen with you so you guys can see the exercise that I do with my clients and do it yourself. So let's do that right now. It's going to take me just a second while I share my screen. Okay. So this is where we begin. I actually use Louise Hay's negative messages exercise when I am working with my clients. This is from her book, You Can Heal Your Life, and I highly recommend it. It's a brain dump, literally. It's all it is. So you start with a large sheet of paper and a writing utensil. It can be in your journal. It can be whatever you feel comfortable with. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the negative messages you received from your parents or daily caregivers. This isn't verbatim words that you're writing down. It's how you filtered what they communicated to you. So, for example, they may have acted as if your behavior was embarrassing. Okay, that's what you write down. You write down how that felt. I felt like I was an embarrassment. My behavior was embarrassing. That may not be verbatim words of what they said, but that's how I filtered that, okay? So while writing these down, anything that you write down, and I'm going to move through this with you, objectively and without judgment, say something to yourself like, that's where that belief came from. It's information. We don't need to judge. We just need to be curious, okay? So you've done that first question. Now we move through these next ones. What did they say about money? Same thing. Whatever you filtered, whatever you heard, what did they say about your body? And I would highly recommend taking a screenshot of this, and you can do it later. I will also be sharing these slides in a PDF in the show notes so you can have them. What did they say about love and relationships? What did they say about your creative talents? What were the limiting or negative things they actually said to you? So here, this is where you will write down verbatim what you heard and what you remember that they said. And if you can, like I said, continue to look at these objectively with curiosity and no judgment and ask yourself, where is this belief coming from? Who communicated this to me? I would also like to encourage you as you're moving through this exercise to just notice if there are any bodily sensations that come up. Because y'all, this is where our baby self lives, is in the sensations. So taking another piece of paper, digging even deeper, what other negative messages did you hear as a child? From relatives, from teachers, from friends, from authority figures, from church, government, other organizations, systems that were in your life. What we're trying to do is dump everything that has impacted this limiting belief system that subconsciously has run our life. And I'm going to talk more about this later. It's really, really fascinating. But for now, we want to get clear and name these. So be aware, again, I'm repeating this, of the feelings that show up and go on in your body as you do this exercise. So when you are finished doing this, you take a look at these two pieces of paper. You now have the thoughts that actually need to be reframed from your consciousness. I put removed here. We don't want to remove them. We want to reframe them. We want to reprogram them. These are beliefs that actually lead to feelings like I'm not good enough or I'm defective. That's where all of these come from, is this exercise. That's what we're uncovering. Okay. Here's the actual exercise itself. And this is an example that I will also share with you. I will share this whole thing with you so that you can practice this, use this yourself. When I did this exercise, probably it was 4 years ago, I spent a day on each limiting belief. It can take some time. And all I would say to do is try to circle 9, just 9, that are still impacting your day to day. That's important. And you'll know why as I move you through what I'm going to teach you in future podcast episodes. So as you can see, here's where the belief may go. You input your belief here, and the limiting belief is I am defective, I am broken or unfixable, I am a mess. So if you are not watching on YouTube, I highly recommend that you do, or pull up the document, click on that in the show notes, and listen while I am going through this exercise so you can see what I'm saying. So the limiting belief in that first box under limiting belief is I'm defective, I'm broken or unfixable, I am a mess. You move downward under those columns and you look at the next question. Under input your beliefs, it says, where do you feel it in your body? I felt it in my gut. It felt constricting. I also felt it in my heart, and there was a heaviness, as if there was an elephant sitting on my chest. These are the things that I would write down. Then you move to, what are the thoughts that I have whenever this limiting belief shows up? I'll never change. I will always deal with this. I'm a downer. I'm not good enough. All of those things. I'm rubbish. Then you move to feelings, which is right below thoughts. I feel shame. I feel self-conscious, insecure, heavy-hearted. And I'm going to also share feeling sheets with y'all so that you can have those to look at when you're doing this exercise. And I can show you those in just a minute. I just want to get through this little portion of it. Then you move to the next section that says, what I habitually do, how do I act when this belief is going on for me? I apologize too much. I interrupt to be heard. All those rejection sensitivity stuff, the symptoms that we just talked about, this is where they show up. Our habit is to do this, to people please, to become a chameleon, to do whatever we can to be approved of or accepted. The results or consequences are people don't want to be around me when I'm acting like that. Would you want to be around? So that's the limiting belief. Now I'm going to show you real quick those feeling sheets. This is what they look like. And when you are doing this exercise, just for people who are not actually seeing this on video, there's 2 sheets. There's one that has a needs list, and then there's one below that. It has feelings when needs are being met. And then the second sheet is feelings when needs are not being met. And this is the sheet that you're going to be using for this exercise. Well, actually, you're going to be using both of them. But for this part of the exercise, what we just did, the limiting beliefs, you're going to be using feelings when needs are not met. Okay, going back, this is where the transformation begins. Those little imperceptible shifts that I talk about all the time happen as we do this work right here. So underneath the limitless belief column, I have the opposite of what I believe. I am defective, I'm broken or unfixable, I'm a mess. I am perfect, just as God made me, I am his masterpiece. Now, this is actually really critical. I am at a place now where I actually believe that. But if I was doing this 4 years ago when I started this, my body would have called BS on that. I don't feel that I am perfect just as God made me. But what if I changed it to something like, I am learning to believe that, or I am working on believing that I am perfect just as God made me. I am his masterpiece. You make a phrase that your body doesn't call BS on. And the way that you know your body calls BS is when you say it out loud, you usually have the exact same response as you did with the limiting belief. So if I would have said, I am perfect just as God made me 4 years ago, my body would have been like, I don't agree with that. I would have collapsed. But now that feels very expansive to me. My heart feels expansive and open. As you can see, that's what I wrote down. That's how you know that the limitless belief is correct. When your body basically goes, hell yes, that's when you know. The thoughts that follow that is, I am royalty. I am cherished. Even in my brokenness, I can have an impact. My messiness is a miracle. These are the thoughts that follow that new limitless belief. The feelings that I feel. So these feelings would be under the feelings when your needs are met. So that first sheet, joy, contentment, hope. What do I habitually do? How would I act if I was operating from this limitless belief? I would be self-compassionate. I would be authentic. I would be truthful. I wouldn't be seeking approval and fearing rejection all the time. What are the results or consequences in my life? I would attract safer, healthier people, and I would love being able to be present. I would want to be present because I would realize my worth. So this exercise here is pretty involved. This is how we actually work through and deal with those limiting beliefs that rejection, our identity stuff, our loss, our shame and our guilt, our grief, all impact these limiting beliefs. And the way to access them is by doing the brain dump that I just talked about. And then once you do that brain dump, you circle the 9 that are still impacting you. And one day at a time, you move through this exercise and you do the limiting belief and come up with how you feel in your body, your thoughts, your feelings, what you habitually do and how you act, the results and the consequences. And then you move into the limitless belief. And if you have to break it up in a couple of days, 3 days, doesn't matter how long it takes. This work really matters and can really shift how you view yourself once you begin to feel how that limitless belief feels in your body. I'm also going to make it possible for you guys to have my free perspective shift exercise. This is the entire exercise all in one package for free that I will put in the show notes as well for you guys to do the work on this if you want. Always remember that I am available in the DMs. You can ask me any question about this, especially if you are doing the work by yourself. I want to be able to come alongside you and help you with this. This is an exercise that's really, really great to do with some guidance and some help. So let me know if it is something that you are exploring and you want to do, and I would be more than happy to come alongside you and be with you in that. So that's what I have for you today, and I hope this was beneficial for you. Please let me know in the comments. Please like these episodes. Please review these episodes so that it can be seen more and it can increase in its visibility. And I love being with you on these Thursdays, and I've been missing you actually, and realizing that the time was right. This week was better. I felt like I was able to move through some of those emotions that I was sitting with, of the things that I've been dealing with personally with my family. And when it feels right, I will share, but I'm still moving through it. And until I have the words to be able to share, I'm not going to share it yet. So thank you for your patience with me, just allowing me to take a break last week and go into the archives and share something from my little time capsule past. But I am looking forward to being with you again next week, next Thursday. And I thought I had it in my brain what I was going to share with you next week, but you'll just have to come back. I do have it written down somewhere, but right now I can't remember because I was so focused on doing rejection tonight. So let me know if you guys need anything. Don't forget to find me on all of the socials, also on YouTube. You can watch, comment, and let me know if there's anything that you need. And comment podcast, and I will send you directly all of the resources that I'm going to be sharing in the show notes too. I can absolutely do that. So here for you. I hope you guys are having a good January, and I look forward to talking to you next Thursday. Peace.